So, Mel, who we got on today?
Well, we have Dr. Gabor Maté, who is one of the greatest researchers in trauma and recovering yourself. And just so excited. I think I'm nervous to talk to him, actually, because he's just so special.
Let's slowly wend our way through the discovery process. And you've read his books, and I've just read outlines and stuff like that. But just from what I know, he's a fascinating man, both from his education and his work, what he did with his education, but also his childhood and his background. Mm-hmm. Equally stressful. That word. So I'm looking forward to it. Are you?
I'm incredibly so.
All right, everybody, just stand by, and we'll bring you our latest podcast.
No time but now. Before we jump into today's episode, we'd like to thank our presenting sponsor, LifeWave. At No Time But Now, our mission is to help you live your life with intention, embracing new possibilities and becoming the best version of yourself. That's why we're excited to partner with LifeWave, a company focused on innovative wellness technologies designed to support people on their journey toward feeling and living their best life.
Yeah, that's cute. It's when you've got an elite guest waiting to be interviewed and the mechanics don't work. That's where a nice pot of beans and a walk in a park might reduce the stress.
Well, I have to say too, while we were waiting for it to all work out, I was like, this is such an interesting place to start, because my body is responding like I'm on the Titanic. Like we're going down, and I'm thinking, why am I so nervous? It's all going to be fine. You have
every reason to be nervous. We got a guest on, and this mechanical thing.
That's not helpful.
Civilization there's too many mechanical things, you know.
All right. Now, are we doing the podcast already?
I think we are.
Anyway, I apologize.
Okay, so it's, as my dad used to say, worse things have happened to better people. Okay, so
this may be the best thing today. Anyway, we're here, and you're such a fascinating gentleman that we wish to talk to and find out. You know, the question, as I was reading what you've done and all your incredible lifetime work, the word stress appears so frequently, not only on the pages, but in our life. And I really mean it. What is the definition of stress? It occurs to me still, what do people call stress? Because crossing the street is stress. But is that really stress? Or is the death of your beloved stress? I mean, what defines the word stress?
Are we talking about stress or trauma? Or is that like the big T, little t?
Okay, so it's interesting because we're all Canadians here, and the work on stress was done here in Canada. In fact, the very word stress, the way we use it today, was coined here in Canada by a physician who, like me, came from Hungary to Canada. His name was János Selye, S-E-L-Y-E, and he did his work at the Université de Montréal in the first half of the 20th century. And he pointed out that he found in a laboratory that when you put animals under stress, their immune system gets depleted, their adrenal gland gets bigger, and their intestines get ulcerated. So stress, from one perspective, is a physiological response of the body to certain conditions. Now, and stress is necessary for life, because if I were to threaten you right now, or if you're under any kind of threat, your body would have to mount a defensive response. So you'd have to have stronger muscles, you have to be more alert, blood flow would have to be diverted from your intestines, digesting your lunch, to your muscles so you could fight back and escape. And that would be facilitated by stress hormones called adrenaline and cortisol from your adrenal gland on top of your kidney. So in the short term, the stress response helps you survive a challenge or a threat. The problem is that chronic stress, those same hormones, if they're triggered all the time, they actually can deplete the immune system, thin your bones, turn on genes that cause cancer, turn off genes that protect you from cancer, put weight on your belly so you get more heart disease, raise your blood pressure, clotting. So what we're talking about is acute stress, which is necessary for survival. So you're more alert and more responsive. And chronic stress, which is debilitating.
Are you saying the stress has to be measured medically with the instruments? Because, for example, I was watching an action movie last night, and the hero was very calm under gunfire. They didn't show any emotion, and everybody else dashing around, jumping and hiding. And he's not stressed because he's been there before. So how do you measure stress?
Well, that's an interesting question, because what you're describing here is precisely how it works. So that there's the physiological stress response, which I described, the elevated cortisol level, the adrenaline levels, the heart rate going up, the muscles getting tight. That's the physiological stress response. Then there's the external event called the stressor, which triggers the response. But in between, there's a third mechanism called the processing apparatus, which is how your organism interprets the event. So in your case, or in the case of this film, the hero processed that external event totally differently than anybody else.
Exactly.
So he would not have been as stressed in a negative way as they were being, because he processed it, understood it differently. This might be tough on you guys, or it might be okay. But let me ask you this.
Welcome it.
What was it like for you as a kid when you got something wrong?
And that's an interesting question, because she's got to address that question with her father standing by.
Which I love, which is one of the reasons I was so excited that, can I say Gabor as opposed to Gabor.
Yeah.
To have Gabor here is first of all, your work is like so important to me and has helped me so much in with my children and my own processing in my life. But I just feel like the fact that I know that you've worked on the Myth of Normal with your son, and that I think you're working on another book with your son, and do workshops with adult children and their parents. I think that it's ripe to open that up for my dad and I. And so to answer your question, and this is something I'm writing about myself. So I wanted to ask my dad if he was okay, because we've not talked publicly about my mother. I'm looking at my dad as I say, we've never, but I am being public about it now. So I feel like,
fine, sweetheart, you just do whatever you want to do. It works for me.
Thank you. So my mom, who's passed, was schizophrenic, and so my responses are very much like some things coming to get me when I'm anxious. Yeah. And in terms of my dad, I think I always expected when I would do something wrong, like it was like, like I'd get so scared. But really, in general, of course, we all have our parenting moments, but in general, he's incredibly kind.
Oh, I'm going to stop you, okay? Because you do something very typical now.
I love being caught.
You're defending and you're protecting your father when he wasn't being accused of anything. Okay. I'll ask you.
It appeals to our Jewish guilt.
Yeah.
No, that's how I live. I would say that's the banner I hold. And I think when you have only one parent and you put everything in that parent, you're very cautious around that parent.
So, by the way, you have heard the definition of Jewish Alzheimer's? You forget everything but the guilt. Marlene, here's what I'm asking you. Just focus on the question. Never mind either describing, criticizing, or protecting your parents. What was it like for you as a kid when you thought you got something wrong? What was it like for you?
Terror.
Yeah, well, that's what came up. Over incident of our delay because of the technical issue. So in the present, nothing was going on except guess what? There was a technical issue with the internet. Big news, you know?
Right.
But what you experienced through your processing apparatus was an implicit memory of being a kid and the terror that you experienced when you got something wrong. So that's what it means to be triggered, is that something happens in the present and all the old stuff floods in. And that's the processing apparatus. So that's the answer, is that stress isn't just what happens out there, but how we experience it and process it. And that's based so much on our early programming.
Yeah. So it's the way that soldier, accustomed to bullets flying, did not show or even feel the stress that the civilian beside him was screaming and yelling because bullets were flying. So the same events happened to the two people who accepted it without stress, who were for very little stress, and the other
or a different kind of stress. Like they might have interpreted their body in a different way, but not as a panic.
Yeah, well, that's right. That's right. The one remains in charge. They remain in the present. They're capable of responding to what's going on right now, and the other is caught in a complete.
So, is there methodology in controlling stress?
Well, there are two issues here. But first of all, you asked, can it be measured? Yeah, it can be measured. Heart rate, blood pressure, hormone levels, nervous system responses. There's all kinds of ways to measure it.
Right.
In terms of controlling it, there are two aspects to it. For example, if Melanie worked on, and you probably have to some degree already, the fact that you got the message as a kid that you better get it right, otherwise, because it'll be really tough for you. If you worked on that particular trauma, then when something happens in the present, you wouldn't be triggered anymore. You wouldn't be stressed anymore. You say, oh, okay, we have a problem with the internet. All right. We'll solve it and we'll come back in 10 minutes. But there wouldn't be this whole systemic response to it. So one way to deal with it is to deal with the triggers, which is trauma work. The other is, there are techniques for dealing with stressful stimuli. There's breath techniques, there's body calming techniques, there's a way to work with the nervous system, there's going for a walk, there's listening to a nice piece of music, there's getting out into nature. In other words, if we're aware that being stressed, there's all kinds of mechanisms that we can learn to regulate that.
I think that getting cancer for me, which I'm not sure if you know, but my dad and I both had stage 4 cancer just a couple years ago.
At the same time, basically. That's why the reason of the podcast. But now it is based on the fact that the threat to our lives gave us a sharper view, cognizance of life around us and the beauty that we have so briefly. And that's why we're doing this podcast.
And for me, getting cancer, and I know from your work that I'm not the only one. It really interrupted that usual way of responding for me. And so today was actually interesting to me. I was able to be both people, like the doctor and the patient, because I was aware, like,
the child, actually.
Mother and the child. I was really aware. Wow, look at you! Like, this is really interesting that I'm responding this way. And I think it was because, one, honestly, your work is so important to me, and meeting you was so exciting to me. I even had in my mind, how do you say hello and not have the jig is up, that you're too nice, that you work too hard to be pleasing? Like I was, even thought to myself, do you go like, hey, how do you say hello?
Yesterday, I did an Instagram Live with an author, and her name is Sarah Hirsch Bordeaux. I'll show you her book in a minute. And the book is called Autoimmunity and the Good Girls.
Autoimmune what?
Autoimmunity and the Good Girls. Mm-hmm. And how permission to put ourselves first has the power to keep us well. So, wow. So this is the book. It's marked.
What is autoimmunity? What is
autoimmunity? Is diseases where the immune system attacks the body itself.
I see.
So instead of protecting us, the same system is meant to defend us. Actually, attacks rheumatoid, right? And so this woman had cancer. She had autoimmune disease. She had allergies. She had ovarian cysts and all that. And then she realized that all her life she's been this good girl, responsible for everything, for everybody, never expressing her genuine anger about anything, not saying no, trying to please everybody. And Melanie, I'm sure I'm describing you as well. And these are the people that get disease. And so she wrote this book called Autoimmunity and the Good Girl. And we had this conversation yesterday, and it's such a common pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Early in childhood, people learn to suppress themselves in order to be accepted. But that self-suppression, because of the mind-body unity, actually plays havoc with the nervous system and the immune system.
Well, as the youngest of three girls, Melanie probably suffered the most from a household that was had a problem. If enhancing your well-being and living life to the fullest are important to you, then you should know those goals are important to LifeWave as well. From light-infused water to unique patch technology to daily supplements, LifeWave products are focused on helping people live healthier, more vibrant lives. And we're delighted to have them as our presenting sponsor. You can learn more at lifewavehealth.com. That's lifewavehealth.com.
Can I ask you about, I mean, if you want to share, but you had cancer, you both have cancer?
Yeah, past tense, all of us.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thankfully, knocking on the wood as a good Jewish girl would, for me, I did all the Western everything. And I've heard you talk about this too, where you just know you have to, and you do the chemo, radiation, surgery, all of it. But my life was prior very holistic, but even more so now. And all I want is to live in a life that's authentic and unafraid.
Your perception of when you got your cancer, your body telling you, that anecdote of being examined and coming back. Tell the doctor that story.
A lot of intuitive, and I would even say spiritual experiences throughout the journey of it. And in the beginning, even just finding my lump was in the middle of the night. My hand lifted and went, and my finger was placed onto the lump, separate from me, and I didn't take it seriously. And in the morning, I really felt something tapping me, saying, "You gotta pay attention." And I just kept ignoring it. And then the rest of the day, I kept feeling like something was saying, "No, go look." And then I called the doctor, who normally had it, the place where I get a mammogram normally would be a few month wait to get an appointment. Said, "We just had a cancellation. Why don't you come in now?" And I thought, "Oh, that's weird." And then I went, and she ultrasounded and said, "No, you look fine." And I wanted to run. Everything in my being was like, "Okay, good, let's get out of here," in that panicky way. She said I was fine. I did it, check. But something else in me said, "Have her check again." And so I had said, "Good," because the bump, and she said, "Again, show me the bump." Then she put the wand over my finger, and I moved my finger, and under her breath, she said, "Now I would have missed that." Wow. And as it turned out, was stage 4 HER2 breast cancer. And thankfully, very receptive to the medication, pretty much felt well.
Well, she also got the doctor that had invented the, I guess the word is poison for that particular cancer, and so he was the authority figure in that.
He's for sure the authority figure. He's the Dr. John Glaspie's was on the team at UCLA. He wasn't I forget the man's name. I should know it, but who the immunotherapy. So I don't think we should call it poison because it's. But anyway,
interesting aspect of all that is listening to your body. There is something in your body talking to you, and you just have to listen. Do you agree with that or not?
Well, I was just about to say that thank God you listen to yourself, because at another stage of your life or state of mind, you might have said, "Thank you, doctor," and "You're the authority," and what I think.
Everybody would have done that. Yep.
Yeah. but you didn't. So you listened to yourself. So thank God.
I want to, if it's okay, to switch over to Dad. I think I have mentioned this to you, but I've read Scattered.
Scattered Minds.
Scattered Minds. I just call it Scattered. I call it Scattered because I just think, and I say it all the time, like that the kids scatter.
Hold on. Let me tell you a story. In the States, originally, it was published with the name Scattered, and which I hated because my title was Scattered Minds.
Oh, interesting.
But they insisted, and I just hated it. And anyway, it didn't do anything in the States for decades. And then 2 years ago, the publisher bought it out with the original name Scattered Minds, and it became a bestseller.
Listen to your body.
When you call it Scattered, that was the original.
Sorry, didn't mean to trigger. When did you write it? When did you write the book originally?
1999.
Oh, okay.
But,
so I read it like probably 10 years later.
Yeah, and in the States, it was published with the title that you cited, Scattered.
Okay. That's so interesting.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, it was... I listened to nonfiction, so because I just learned better that way. So I would listen to it in the car. I would have to pull over, Dad. I would pull over and just be like,
what was affecting you?
Well, let me say this. It was heartbreaking and relieving at the same time, which I think is a very confusing but very incredible emotion to feel. Like it was just both things flooding me. Being aware, maybe for the first time, because when I had children, and even the abuse that I had as a child, it was in the distance. I didn't feel it in my daily life. Felt it on an airplane. I felt it like the people in charge are going to kill me, but I didn't feel it when I was just interacting with people or doing things. So, but parenting my first child, there was so much that came up for me, and she's an incredible and very complicated kid. And I would listen to it, and I thought it was both realizing that my own traumas that I had allowed them, that's the heartbreaking part, I allowed them to interfere with the most important thing to me in my life, which was being a good parent and my kids.
Let me interrupt again. You allowed. Is that accurate?
No, I wasn't in control of it, but I did, in a sense. I didn't work on it.
Stay with me.
Okay.
Allowing the conscious act.
Right.
How conscious were you?
No, I was in survival, for sure.
Okay. So you didn't allow anything.
Right.
Take that guilt grip off your shoulders.
Yeah.
Okay. It came through you. Just as my own traumas came through me to my kids. Conscious decision there. And just as your parents' traumas came through them to you, it didn't deliberately allow it either. It's just multi-generational, the family emotional system, and it flows from one generation to the other until we become conscious of it.
And that word conscious
has
occurred to me more and more as I get older. Conscious in every sense of the word, conscious of your own actions, but conscious of the world around you. Yeah. And that getting out of yourself, out of the highways that you've made for yourself, and seeing your mental environment as well as the physical environment is a key to getting better too. Do you not agree, Doctor?
Well, that's what my work is all about, actually.
Consciousness.
Is getting people conscious, and including getting myself conscious. And believe me, it's ongoing work. But Melanie, you were saying about what happened. I just didn't want to let you get away with accusing yourself.
I appreciate that.
Were you part of the Hungarian Revolution and the Russian thing there?
Yeah. I was
part of your childhood?
Well, my trauma happened long before then, when I was an infant, as a Jewish infant living under the Nazis for the first year of my life.
Yes.
That was my big trauma. 1956 was the Hungarian Revolution against the communist dictatorship. And I was 13 then, and that's when we left Hungary and came to Canada. Yeah. So I was a part of that.
So your background is filled with, however you define it, stress. As a child trying to escape the Nazis, you were living with a family, right?
Well, I wasn't trying to escape anything because I was an infant. So,
but you were aware of the riptides of anxiety.
No, I wasn't. As a 2-month-old, a 3-month-old, a 1-year-old, you're not aware of or getting sick. However, what does happen is the child absorbs the emotional stresses of the parent.
Yes.
And you can imagine the emotional states my mother was in for a whole year as a Jewish mother living under the Nazis.
Oh.
And I could go on. I talk about it in my books. I don't need to repeat my story once again. But all I'm saying is that we're not necessarily consciously aware, but we absorb the traumas of our parents.
And the it's not genetic, right? But I mean, epigenetics is that like with the
Yeah. Well, so it's not genetic, no. In other words, the DNA doesn't change, but epi means on top of. So epigenetic means how the environment activates or inactivates the genes, because genes are turned on and off by the environment.
Would you say that the trauma, like, I don't know how to ask this, the unresolved traumas of the parents, and we know like PTSD can be found in the epigenetics, right, of the offspring.
Yeah.
And then you have the sensitive child, which is what I have two of. Is it a coincidence, or do they go together? I guess I'm asking that the unresolved traumas and a sensitive child being born to that parent of an unresolved trauma, or do sensitive children come into all kinds of families?
I think sensitivity is significantly genetic, but then it depends on what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's the example I often give. So Melanie, tap yourself on the shoulder right now. Just do that. How much did that hurt you?
Didn't hurt.
No, it didn't. But now, imagine if your skin was bare, you had a burn there, so your nerve endings were close to the surface. What do you feel?
Horrible pain.
Yeah. So what happens is that when there's stress or trauma on the sensitive child, it affects them more than it would another child with a more sedate temperament.
You also need, and you were referring to it in previous words, you also need to forgive yourself. You need to accept your own version of how you deal with trauma, especially as you get older. You're not going to change that much. You have to accept yourself. That's my fault. That's what I did. That's way I feel, and forgive yourself. Do you not think that as well?
Well, I completely agree with you, but I would phrase it differently, because actually you forgive yourself when you realize that there's nothing to forgive. You did your best. Yeah, you passed on. I mean, there's plenty of things that as a husband, as a physician, certainly as a parent, that I wished I had done differently. Many things. If I could relive my life, believe me, I'd make different decisions in many areas of my life. But really, and there's remorse there for sure. But forgiveness means that you did something that you're culpable of.
Yeah, but remorse is the same thing. It's like a negative part of forgiveness. Remorse is I wish I had, and forgiveness is I didn't do, but I understand why I didn't do.
Exactly.
It's like self-love, really, is what that sounds like to me.
Yeah, you're veering towards self-love, or accepting yourself for all your faults and all your negatives, plus the good things about you, which are many more than the negative things about you, Melanie.
Thank you. I do feel that way as a parent. Like I know that I know that the biggest thing I did was not understand the child that I had until a little later, and I can forgive myself for that because I understand her now.
Do you know that poem by Philip Larkin, who was the former British poet laureate?
No.
It begins, they fuck you up, your mom and dad. They do not mean to what they do. They give you all the faults they had, and add a few extra just for you. and it ends with, man hands are misery to man. It deepens like a coastal shelf. get out as quickly as you can, and don't have any kids yourself.
Oh.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. You know, when Melanie and I decided to launch this podcast, choosing our presenting sponsor was an important decision to us, but LifeWave made it easy. I had a number of fascinating conversations with David Schmidt, LifeWave's founder and inventor, and learned of his passion to stay on top of important developments in emerging wellness research. For more information about his 22-year-old life technology company, operating in over 70 countries, no less, visit lifewavehealth.com. That's lifewavehealth.com. Well, that's the theme of your life's work, isn't it?
It is actually. All my work is about what happened, how can we understand what happened, how can we understand it with compassion for ourselves and for everybody, and how do we get past it?
I'd like to address a new thought that has hit me in the last few months that I'm working on, trying to evolve the thought. And let me seek your help.
Yeah.
Primitive man thought, I got to kill that animal, eat it, and anybody threatens to eat my food, I'm going to kill them because that's my way of thinking. And we've not gotten very far from that as we've evolved along the tens of hundreds of thousands of years since we climbed down the tree. But now that we know more about quantum and the mystery and the majesty and the appeal of so much of what we've learned and what we're about to learn, requires a change in our thinking. When we think of entanglement and fully realize entanglement means we belong to each other and we belong to the world and we belong to the universe.
Yes.
We need to change our thinking from that primitive person's thinking to this new humanity of thinking we're all in the same boat.
I'd like to really answer you very carefully. I completely agree with the sentiment that you express and the wisdom that you just distilled. And I completely disagree with your historical analysis. Because when you actually look at how human beings evolved, there's been human beings, hominins on Earth for millions of years. In our own species, Homo sapiens, we've been here for about 150, 200,000 years. Most of that time, until the blink of an eye ago, we lived communally, seeing ourselves as part of a much larger unit, belonging to the earth, being at one with nature, being at one with all the animals and all other creatures, and being at one with our community, and being communal and collaborative and caring. Had we not been that way, we would not have survived. So what you're describing here is actually much more recent, and it goes quite contrary to human nature. And so that, yes, what you describe, and if you look at the people that live in the jungle, the tribes, if you look at the indigenous people in Canada, this idea of unity was central to their way of understanding the world.
Yeah.
If you look at the North American indigenous medicine wheel, it's got these 4 quadrants: the body, our physical self, the mind, which is our emotions and our thoughts, the social, which is our relationship with other human beings, and the spiritual, which is our connection with everything. And that full health rests on a balance between those 4 quadrants. So that sense of unity that you describe is absolutely essential to us. But the people that we call primitive, they knew that really well.
Yes, animism. They saw spirit, the spirit of something in everything.
That's right.
But I'm looking, my thinking goes one step further than that, and that is, are we part of the universe? And is the universe conscious? And do we have an element of our consciousness in my usage of the word consciousness means not just awareness, but consciousness of our existence in the gestalt of life. And that's where I'm evolving to, that there's another element that we now have to start thinking about is, are we making the universe conscious? Our questions about the universe, is it arousing the universe itself to be conscious of itself? It's like several steps along the way. It sounds a little crazy,
No,
but it appeals to me.
it does not. Bill, I think what you're dealing with here is an age-old question. And these days I spend my days, reading the Bhagavad Gita, which is the Hindu song of the Lord. It's a spiritual text, you might say. And they raised these very same questions 2,500 years ago.
Well, I think Spinoza dealt with that as well, didn't he?
That's right. And many people have. And I think what happens is, I know that you're in your 90s, I think, if I'm right. And I'm in my early 80s. Hope to look as good as you do, but but I think we come to a stage in life when these questions become central to our existence.
I agree.
So I think the questions that you're asking are far more important than the answers that we come up with.
Well, the answers we come up with are speculative. The question is very valid. The question causes me some stress.
Well, what if you just accepted the question as a question, and instead of your mind trying to figure out the answer, which it never will,
Right.
you just allowed yourself to hang out with the question in a state of uncertainty.
Just asking the question is something we all need. That's the first step in our evolution of thinking, from coming out of the cave to being part of a network of artificial intelligence. Yes, I agree with you.
This makes me think of the next set of questions I have for you, which is the plant medicine. And I don't mean to say that this is like, but it is. It's so far out. You're talking so far out that to me, that it's a perfect segue. Is I know you work with plant medicine, and I'm curious about the benefits and who should do it and who shouldn't.
So first of all, humans have worked with plant medicines for thousands of years.
And with these kinds of questions, I'm sure.
Yeah, and so mushrooms and opiates and cacti like peyote and San Pedro and other kind of plants, people have worked with, and they've worked with it in a healing capacity, and they worked with it in a shamanic capacity to explore spiritual questions, such as Bill was just asking. And so I came across plant medicines maybe 17, 18 years ago after my book on addiction was published. People kept asking me what I knew about plant medicines, and I didn't know anything, but I was open to finding out. So I've worked with plant medicines now for off and on, for 17, 18 years. And they can be very helpful for self-awareness, for spiritual exploration, to deal with unresolved, even unrecognized trauma, to get in touch with memories that have been repressed. So I've seen a lot of healing for some people from various conditions, autoimmune conditions or addictions or depression, anxiety. I've also seen them being misused and exploited, and typically, like with everything else, it's like you can use medicine for helpful purposes, but you can also use it to control people, and so it's a question of who's using it, and with what intention, in what context. So that's what's so important here. Certain people should never use them, like anybody with schizophrenia you mentioned, they should not use plant medicine.
And why is that? Because I'm curious about it, and I won't ever do it. But I know that that's the reason I won't, and it's disappointing to me.
But you haven't had schizophrenia.
Oh no, but I thought it was in the first generation.
I mean, I could have a conversation with you about it, but just because your mother had it wouldn't discourage me from having you work with, in the right fitting with the right people. I would not have concern. But it's only that the psychedelics do loosen the mind, the control that the mind has. And schizophrenics already have a very tentative and tenuous hold on their mind, so that you don't want to give them a medicine that's going to.
Oh no! Yeah, having known one well, that sounds horrifying.
but you know what? It's not that everybody should do them, and nobody should do them.
Well, I guess good for some people and not good for others.
Yeah. And so there's no panacea. But there's some amazing, I'll tell you one story, or not story, but fact. There's an African plant called iboga or ibogaine. Ibogaine is the extract of the iboga plant, which grows in Gabon in Africa. This iboga has the capacity, you give it to somebody who's been a heroin addict for 20 years, and if they stop the medicine, they go to terrible withdrawal. If they do the iboga over 2 nights in the right setting, they have no withdrawal symptoms.
Wow.
And all kinds of trauma stuff comes up that they can deal with. So they're using this now for veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder who are addicted to opiates. President Trump, bless his blighted soul, just announced some funding for research into this because of the treatment for PTSD for veterans is so poor. So some of these plants can do amazing things.
Yeah. I actually have some friends who are very balanced, great women who are doing under supervision some journeys and things, and they really report back some incredible things. So I'm kind of glad to know I can.
To me, it's frightening to open that door where you can't control it. I did mushrooms in Holland, in Amsterdam.
Oh, yeah.
We were there for a visit and walked along the streets, and it was wintertime, and I realized we were the only ones around. We were the only tourists around. Everybody else, were waiting for the summertime. And so a guy came up with some mushrooms. So my wife and I went to the hotel room and ingested the mushrooms. And she saw world peace, and I saw monsters coming out of the wall. So I don't know what that insight is, but I resolved then. Actually,
That's it.
What? In Amsterdam, there's doctors and psychologists who work with mushrooms in a healing capacity. So it all depends on who you're doing it with what intention.
Right.
Yeah.
This has been really fascinating for me, and I can see that for Melanie as well. Fascinating, brief moment with this extraordinary doctor. I want to thank you so much for having the patience to be with us and helping us understand more. You're obviously an enormous human being worth studying, and I thank you. Well,
there's so much I wanted to get to, which maybe we can do it again.
Next year, as you mentioned, my book with my son, it's called Hello Again, A Fresh Start for Parents and Adult Children.
Oh, what a great idea. We have to get that one.
It's being published next April. I'm so happy to come back on your program.
That would be amazing.
And back in our program, we just touched the surface here.
Yeah, and anyway, it's been a great pleasure to speak with both of you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Mel, what a fascinating man.
I feel like he's such a fountain of information, and I feel I hope we can have him back on because I feel like we just skirted the surface.
I've been doing some podcasts, which I've never done before, in doing publicity for us, so you get somebody with a lot of people who listen to their podcast, getting on and talking to them, doing that publicity, but nobody, the podcasts I've done, does what we're doing, which is like exposing our own nerves, laying ourselves bare for our audience.
I do watch, though. I do listen and watch several really wonderful ones, and they do. And I've got to say, I've watched a bunch that he's done. He's a seer, he sees. So you can see people going like, work on me.
Work on me.
Work on me, do me. So you can see it in their eyes. And he does, because he can't help it.
The mixture of paternal feeling and equality, like you're my human being. I am totally amazed at your research, at your reading, at your knowledge. I'm discovering a whole aspect of you that I wouldn't have known if we hadn't done this show.
Love you.
Love it. Thank you, my dear. I'll see you on the next one. You
Okay.
come back now.
That reminded me of one of those sitcoms. You come back, you hear?
Well, you come back here.
Like the Beverly Hillbillies or something. Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much for spending part of your day with us here on No Time But Now, and to LifeWave for supporting these conversations that we're so proud to bring you each week. Please join us next week for a new episode and tell your friends. Subscribe on our website and the YouTube page, and please tell us what you think. If you'd like to work with us, learn more about us or our sponsors, or join our community, visit our website at notimebutnow.com.